Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy healer. And we're studying this book, The Kybalion, by the Three Initiates. And we're on page 61 in chapter 8. And this is a very technical chapter because they're just basically describing what the Hermetists state are the planes of existence. And we just have to accept that. And I don't necessarily agree with what they're saying, but it doesn't matter because it's just what it is. It's just what the three initiates say is true. And you'd have to read the Corpus Hermeticum and the Emerald Tablets to see if they all agree or not, as to whether that's true to all Hermetists. One thing I just want to say about this book, one of the reasons I think that it's still so popular is because it was written anonymously by three initiates. And although some people claim that William Walter Atkinson wrote it, the fact is that it's not being claimed by a particular personality, and therefore it is not subject to the cult of personality as so many other teachings are. And that makes it very appealing, and it leaves it open for interpretation by us. We do have to take into consideration that it was written in 1908, before all of this latest hoopla has happened with Big Pharma and the changes of science, because at this time when this book was written, they were exploring science in terms of quantum physics and energy, and then it got derailed by the Rockefellers and the American Medical Association. And now it's just getting back to that again, because, the truth always does come out again, and so there are other teachings that are anonymous, similar to that, like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, which have a historical point of view and not one individual behind them. And they are pretty similar to the hermetic viewpoint. Because, for example, in Qi Gong, it says, sometimes you can find, it says that the Qi is in all, the Qi is in everything, and everything is in Qi. And then we also have prana in Ayurveda. So basically, the ancient teachings that are still around today, that may or may not be just used, people may be using them for exercise or relaxation, but actually they're keys to being able to live according to these principles if you want. The other thing that's really cool about these principles is you don't have to be a member of any religion to practice these principles. You can practice these principles, you can pray, and you can believe in whatever you want to believe in, and you don't have to go to church or go to some place and be a part of a fellowship of people that are practicing this. You can just practice them on your own. And that's basically my point of view of it myself. Like, I'm really not into all that organized religion thing. I mean, it's fine for people for whom it works, but then I'm not into it. So I just like to use these principles that are in this book and the other basic golden rule, treat others how you'd like to be treated, in an in-depth way. And meaning, when I say an in-depth way, what I mean is that I basically try to look at every situation that I'm in and, not glaze over things, because especially these days, while we're so into convenience, there's so much harm being caused by our actions that um, I definitely scrutinize my actions. And when I live that way, I seem to walk in a corridor of light as a result of practicing these principles. And I also get to pray, though. That's another thing. I do pray, but um, I'm not a member of any kind of denomination or anything like that. So um, I have found that some people are astonished by the connection that I have with unseen forces by living this way. And anyone can do this. It's all available in plain sight. But you just can't follow the mainstream scam that's going on out there. It's You just have to follow morality and these principles, meditation, slowing down, paying attention, doing the best job you can, being honest, going the extra mile for your brothers and sisters, um, being of service anonymously, you know, trying to be helpful, but not like trying to take credit for it, stuff like that. I mean, this is old teachings, and a good place to learn these teachings would be to read the translations of books by Carl von Eckartshausen. As a book I recently read this week. I'll try to put a link in the description to some of his work from like the 1780s, and other books of morality. So yeah, that's what works for me, to try to stay out of the mainstream. And also, I will also add, like, I try to live a sort of an agorist lifestyle so that I'm not really in the system. Paid back all my credit card debt in maybe 2000, have no credit score, don't care. Just I don't really participate as little as possible. I participate as little as possible in the system. Yes, of course, I have to use the fake green paper, but I try to tithe 10% of my income, my gross income, to charities that I feel are helpful to furthering the message of nature and natural law. That keeps me out of the rat race to make money. Sometimes it's really scary if I make a lot of money one month and I have to tithe 10%, it still releases me from belief that I am making money instead of being provided for by natural law and the spirit. That's how I prefer to live, and that's what makes me free mentally, so that I don't choose to work like a slave over my freedom and things that I'm called to do in service to the Creator. I'm just trying to think other things I do like that. Just living on the down low, not having to be extravagant. And trying to keep things simple. I use Linux. That's something I do too, a Linux computer. So I don't have to be part of that whole rat race of competition between, and upgrading and all this baloney. And all the software I use is open source. And I can buy like a used computer and install Linux on it. Cheap, very cheap. Easy, very easy to do. And there's never any malware or viruses or anything because the computer developers use Linux. So yeah, that's how I try to do this thing, and I'm quite sure that I will always be able to live this way and be free, even as the encroachment of the collective chooses more and more slavery, which may happen. I will still be free. So now I'm going to go into this page 61, bottom paragraph. It says, on the 7 minor planes of the great spiritual plane exists beings of whom we may speak as angels, archangels, demigods. On the lower minor planes dwell these great souls whom we call masters and adepts. Above them come the great hierarchies of the angelic hosts, unthinkable to man, and above those come those who may, without irreverence, be called the gods. So high in the scale of being are they, their being intelligence and power being akin to those attributed by the races of men to their conceptions of deity. These beings are beyond even the highest flights of the human imagination, the word divine being the only one applicable to them. Many of these beings, as well as the angelic host, take the greatest interest in the affairs of the universe and play an important part in its affairs. These unseen divinities and angelic helpers extend their influence freely and powerfully in the process of evolution and cosmic progress. Their occasional intervention and assistance in human affairs have led to the many legends, beliefs, religions, and traditions of the race, past and present. They have superimposed their knowledge and power upon the world again and again, all under the law of the all, of course. So, that's interesting that they say that they occasionally intervene. I don't really know if this is going to come up in this book, but yeah, I mean, maybe they're talking about like Jesus and Buddha and Siddhartha and Lao Tzu. Maybe that's who they're talking about. However, I seem to have access at all times. Like I can pray for help and receive it at any time. So I wouldn't say that they occasionally help us. Someone is always available to help me. And I am, I might use a specific name to call for help. I may call Jesus. I found that Jesus really helps me when I'm dealing with demonic possession, which I have had to deal with that. With people who appear to be possessed and are very scary. I have called him in for help, and I have received such amazing help from him that I call him a lot, actually, and I get the help. So yeah, maybe he showed up 2,000 years ago in human form, but he seems to be available. And then sometimes I just call upon God and I get help. And sometimes I call upon nature, elementals, for help with animals. Usually it's with animals and nature spirits that I kind of call upon their help for animals, and I get the help. So the thing is that it can be dangerous is if we believe that we have to do the job ourselves because spirit isn't available. And then we end up, what I've seen is people end up calling in demonic forces for assistance or creating egregores and tulpas for assistance. And I personally would never do that because it could easily get out of hand. Just because you draw a circle around yourself doesn't mean that you're going to be able to contain a negative spirit. And I just would never do that. It would just be, to me, it's the stupidest thing you could ever do. But I do think a lot of people who use these principles do this on a regular basis, like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn notoriously calls in negative spirits. And then there's like a lot of people use these principles for black magic, basically meaning they use it for personal gain, to gain power over other people, or to hex other people, or to get over on other people. I would never do that in a million years. It's insane. I think that's completely ridiculous. And I don't have to do it, because all I need to do whenever I'm in trouble is ask for help. And I receive the help. So why would I need to conjure up my own help from like human? Like, some people even say, like, they say that they are co-creating with God. That's ridiculous. To me, that's ridiculous. Who the hell do I think I am that I could co-create with God? That's so hilarious. No, the gods, or God, does the creating, and I ask for help, and I try to be of service to that through natural law. And I just don't mess around with these other ideas of me being like that my human mind is the alpha and the omega. That's absolutely ridiculous to me. That's the same as thinking that animals are beneath us, which I do not think at all. I think animals have figured it out. Like, they're not destroying their environment. So yeah, this is a different way of looking at things, but that's just my take on that. So I'll go back here now and see if I can get any further with this. But yet, even the highest of these advanced beings exist merely as creations of and in the mind of the all, and are subject to the cosmic processes and universal laws. They are still mortal. We may call them gods if we like, but still they are but the elder brethren of the race. I'm guessing that they're talking about Jesus and Buddha and Lao Tzu and people like that. The advanced souls who have outstripped their brethren and who have forgone the ecstasy of absorption by the all in order to help the race on its upward journey along the path. So that would be maybe Thoth. Thrice great Hermes Trismegistus apparently reincarnated 3 times and lived for several hundred years each time to bring these teachings to humanity. And that's how they resisted. They forwent the ecstasy of absorption by the all, so that they could come back with the knowledge that they had gained again and again and again. But they are mortal. And there's also, like, Tibetan monks who can suspend death so that they can be around to help us. There's a lot of stories about them. So it says they're mortal and their plane is below that of the absolute spirit. Only the most advanced Hermetists are able to grasp the inner teachings regarding the state of existence and the powers manifested on the spiritual planes. The phenomena is so much higher than that of the mental planes that a confusion of ideas would surely result from an attempt to describe the same. Only those whose minds have been carefully trained along the lines of the Hermetic philosophy for years, yes, those who have brought with them from other incarnations the knowledge acquired previously, can comprehend just what is meant by the teaching regarding these spiritual planes. And much of these inner teachings is held by the Hermetists as being too sacred, important, and even dangerous for general public dissemination. Right. And so then that they tried to keep it secret, but then unfortunately, the CIA and the military have gotten a hold of these ideas and have been using them against us since the 40s or more or earlier through MK Ultra, etc. The intelligent student may recognize that we mean what we mean by this when we state that the meaning of spirit is used by the Hermetists is akin to living power, animated force, inner essence, essence of life, etc., which meaning must not be confounded with what usually and commonly employed in connection with the term, i.e. religious, ecclesiastical, spiritual, ethereal, holy, etc. To occultists, the word spirit is used in the sense of the animating principle, carrying with it the idea of power, living energy, mystic force, etc. And occultists know that which is known to them as spiritual power may be employed for evil as well as good ends, in accordance with the principle of polarity, a fact which has been recognized by the majority of religions in their conceptions of Satan, Beelzebub, the devil, Lucifer, fallen angels, etc. And so the knowledge regarding these planes has been kept in the Holy of Holies, in all esoteric fraternities and occult orders, in the secret chamber of the temple. But this may be said here, that those who have attained high spiritual powers and have misused them have a terrible fate in store for them, and the swing of the pendulum of rhythm will inevitably swing them back to the furthest extreme of material existence, from which point they must retrace their steps spiritward along the weary rounds of the path, but always with the added torture of having always with them a lingering memory of the heights from which they fell owing to their evil actions. So we know today that these occult fraternities have been violated by the globalists with a nefarious agenda for all of us, and they've used these teachings for the military and for, used them in horrible ways. I mean, too many to list. You guys can definitely do your own research about all that. You could look up Kathy O'Brien, Kurth Barker, Bryce Taylor, anybody who's suffered satanic ritual abuse like Jay Parker. So many people have been used for military advancement, like remote viewing, astral projection, and there's targeted individuals now that are connected to the military, etc., for whatever reason. And I'm sure that they are so advanced that we don't have any idea how advanced they are, but they're going to pay. The order followers will pay, and the people behind this will pay, whether they're human or not. They're going to pay for violating the terms of these agreements, which it's really supposed to be used for the highest good of all concerned, not for personal gain. The legends of the fallen angels have a basis in actual facts, as all advanced occultists know. I mean, you could read books by Zachariah Sitchin or watch the Cosmic Abandonment video by Mark Passio to understand that stuff. I'm not going to really get into that right now. The striving for our selfish power on the spiritual planes inevitably results in the selfish soul losing its spiritual balance and falling back as far as it had previously risen. But to even such a soul, the opportunity of a return is given, so redemption is always available. And such souls make the return journey, paying the terrible penalty according to the invariable law. In conclusion, we would again remind you that according to the principle of correspondence, which embodies the truth, as above, so below, as below, so above, all of the 7 Hermetic principles are in full operation on all of the many planes, physical, mental, and spiritual. The principle of mental substance, of course, applies to all the planes, for all are held in the mind of the all. The principle of correspondence manifests in all, for there is a correspondence, harmony, and agreement between the several planes. The principle of vibration manifests on all planes. In fact, the very differences that go to make the planes arise from vibration, as we have explained. The principle of polarity manifests on each plane, the extremes of the poles being apparently opposite and contradictory. The principle of rhythm manifests on each plane, the movement of the phenomena having its ebb and flow, rise and flow, incoming and outgoing. The principle of cause and effect manifests on each plane, every effect having its cause and every cause having its effect. The principle of gender manifests on each plane, the creative energy being always manifest and operating along the lines of its masculine and feminine aspects. As above, so below, as below, so above. These centuries-old Hermetic axiom embodies one of the great principles of the universal phenomena. As we proceed with our consideration of the remaining principles, we will see even more clearly the truth of the universal nature of this great principle of correspondence. Until next time.